Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in Council Chambers at 216 Main Street West, Swan River, Manitoba, this 24th day of May, 2023 at 7 p.m. Present this evening, myself, Reeve, Gade, Councillors Burick, Blosha, Zbirun, Kushniryk, and McGregor. Interim CAO Pat Ellingson's with us, and our videographer Jeremy R Bergen is here as well. We'll pick up our agenda at item number 2. Be it resolved that the agenda for the special meeting of Council held this 24th day of May 2023 shall be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Burick, seconded by Councillor Kushniryk. I remind Council, because we're missing a member tonight, we're not allowed to change the agenda for a special meeting from what was presented. So all we have tonight on the agenda is going to public hearing, and then we have third reading of the taxation levy. Is there any further discussion on the agenda tonight? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Item 3 on our agenda is adjourning the special meeting to go to the public hearing. Be it resolved that we do now adjourn the special meeting of Council to attend the public hearing at 7:01 p.m. A mover, please. Councillor Blosha, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor Zbirun, any discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Give me a moment, and I will move to our public hearing agenda. So we welcome one and all to the public hearing of Council held this 24th day of May 2023 in Council Chambers at 216 Main Street West at 7 p.m. Present for the public hearing tonight, we've Gade, Councillors Burick, Blosha, Zbirun, Kushniryk, McGregor, Interim CAO Pat Ellingson, and our videographer Jeremy R Bergen is in the room as well. So tonight for the public hearing, we've got a brief explanation page. I think everybody probably picked that up on the way in, but I'll go through it quickly, and then we'll be inviting anyone that's present that wants to make presentations for or against the financial plan. So the financial plan as we have it so far has passed second reading. The intention tonight is to go for third reading after the public hearing, but obviously Council is here to hear the input from people that have come up tonight, because we didn't want, obviously, to pass a financial plan without hearing from people. The mill rates, as they're currently presented for 2022, the non-LUD properties were 13.038 mils. In 2023, Council is proposing 13.863 mils, which is a 6.3% increase. For LUD properties in the LUD of Benito, the effective mill rate in 2022 was 36.355. The proposal for 2023 is 21.348, which represents a 41.3% decrease. Total revenue for the municipality is actually scheduled to go down this year because there's a substantial difference in the amount of reserves being drawn. So in 2022, the budgeted revenue was $5,855,740. The proposal from Council tonight is for a total revenue of $4,813,820.36, which represents a 17.9% decrease. Raw taxation in the municipality in 2022 was $3,538,230. The proposed for 2023 financial plan is $4,007,906.14, which represents a 13.3% increase. Swan Valley West is growing. There's been substantial increases in the 2023 budget, but much of the impact of those increases has been absorbed by growth and increased government grants. Highlights of the financial plan this evening: an increase in provincial general grant to $357,500 from $224,783. A decrease in fire services. Spending in 2022 was over $1 million. In 2023, the budget amount is $184,500. An increase in staff wages due to a new union contract and associated obligations under that contract. Increase in fuel expenses due to more maintenance and higher fuel prices. Increase in equipment repairs due to lack of maintenance in previous years. A substantial increase in the drainage expenses for Sarah Lake Road repairs that we're legally required to do by the province of Manitoba. Substantial increase in gravel purchase, crushing, and application. In 2022, the budget was for $464,000. The actual spending was $379,604. The 2023 budget is for $660,000, and Council has indicated they intend to spend the entire amount. Double spending on doctor recruitment as well in 2023. So normally that would be about $46,000. This year it's double because the 2022 amount was not paid by previous Council, so we'll have to be paid this year. And we also note there's been equalization of taxation. So rural taxes have been adjusted to $0. There are no longer taxes only on rural properties. LUD taxes account only for services provided in the LUD, and at-large taxes include all previous rural-only amounts. Some of those changes mean that the folks in the LUD of Benito will now be paying a share towards things that may have been traditionally considered as rural, like road graveling and such, but they do pay a share of everything now. That's the highlights of the financial plan this evening. Is there anyone present tonight that would like to make presentations for or against the 2023 financial plan?
When do we want to get into discussing some? Do you want to do that now, or do you want to go through them and talk as you get them to the item?
Well, we're ready. If anyone wants to make presentations for or against the plan, this is the time for the public to make presentations.
Well, what I'm against, and like you say, you're open to speak. When we're going to speak, you're going to hear, but you're not going to listen. It's very unfair, I'm sorry, as a ratepayer, to what I see what's going on in the LUD in Benito. At amalgamation, they chose to stay in LUD. They could have went at large, didn't want to. And now all of a sudden, your campaign promises to lower the taxes in Benito, you're bringing to collision on the backs of farmers and anybody else. Houses pricing hasn't gone up, land prices have. So when you put a tax increase of 10, 5, 20%, it's the farmers that are going to be paying for the luxury of dropping the taxes in Benito. I believe in paying taxes. They're as certain as death, but my fair share. When you start taking off services from the LUD of Benito and putting them at large, it is wrong. And you only got 3 people here tonight. But believe me, the big farmers are going to see what is going on, and there's going to be a blowback, and there's going to be a kickback. You want services in Benito, tax the individuals that are living in there. Why should we, I've gone through it quickly, why should we at large be paying for snow removal and mowing in the LUD of Benito? You explain that to me. Lighting in Benito, why should we be paying for that? The rec center, you've put everything onto the at large. Nobody in Benito benefits from the service of that rec center. The fire department, protection, at large. I don't see anything put to the LUD in Benito, yet that service is closer to serve those people. I'll never see it where I am. I don't understand your logic or your thinking, how you think you can put everything at large when you're an LUD. If you want to become at large, go through the process, come at large, and let's get things dealt properly. That's what I have to say at this particular point.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to make presentations on the 2023
I would
financial
like
plan?
to ask a few questions and make a few statements, point out a few things that I think are in error. Everybody knows that one can make figures say just exactly whatever they want to if they massage them enough. Now it's suggested here that non-LUD properties are going to be seeing a 6.3% increase. And then when you go down 4 lines to the raw taxation amount, it comes up to 13.3. Actually, if you refer to the general operating fund budgeted revenue and expenditures, the first line, tax levy, says it all. What it was last year, and that's before any grants in lieu or anything else, because grants in lieu don't come out of ratepayers' pockets. It was 3.486277.06. This year it's $4,021,689.08, which is in fact a 15.35% increase. As I said, in massage figures, use different figures, you get whatever outcome you want if you try hard enough. With regard to the fire services, decreasing fire services, over $1 million actual in 2022, $184.5. That $1 million should not be written off in 1 year. From 20 at least for the older truck, to 25 years for the newer truck, to 40 years for the revamping of the fire hall. It should be amortized over those years. It's made to look very bad from last year, and wow, are you guys supermen to lower the cost to that degree for 2023. It's pulling the wool over, or attempting to pull the wool over people's eyes. Increase in equipment repairs due to lack of maintenance. That's a broad statement that is unprovable. The operators maintain their equipment the way the manufacturers suggested they should. Now, because you had a breakdown in a grader, which should have been at that point in time already traded because it was the next one on the block to be traded. In fact, the municipality would not have been liable for that breakdown. It would have been absorbed by whoever you had traded the machine to, whether it was John Deere or to Caterpillar. As far as the 22 budget for 464, that is underspent at 379,604 for gravel. There was money purposely left there in that budget to crush an additional 25,000 yards of gravel that I believe it was the Reeve explained was missing, which made people believe that someone had stole 25,000 yards of gravel when in fact it had just not yet been crushed. But the money was there to pay for that crushing, and had that crushing occurred in 2022, the budget would have been closer to that being spent. With regard to the LUD and the decrease in taxes, again, at a meeting in Benito, I believe the Reeve said, well, they plow snow in the rural, we plow snow in the urban. No difference. I beg to differ. In the rural, you've got a plow going down the road at 20 miles an hour roughly. I'm suggesting in the LUD, he probably moves at 4 or 5 miles an hour. That grader, the 5th grader that was bought, I guess you could argue whether it was bought to have it as a spare completely, or to have it appear in Benito every time it snowed. Because that's actually what happened. There were 4 graders out in the rural, as there always have been, and there was one in Benito. And yet the rural are paying 97% of the taxes at large. The urban, or the LUD, pay approximately 3%. And that could even be below 3% now with the reassessment that happened to farmland at the last time, and it will continue to shrink. Again, if you use the proper figures from the service plan of the LUD, which in 22 is $208,920, this year $65,000, it's a difference of $143,920, which comes to a 68% reduction, not a 41% as described. Again, using figures differently, plugging them in the way you want, gives the result that you want. I also noticed on the 4th page that the budgeted expenditure last year, our legal budget was set at $25,000. $20,673.44 was spent according to this. This year the budget is set at $75,000. That's $50,000 more than last year. $50,000. $50,000. That number kind of rings a bell. I think this council has to reconsider not only that line, but some other lines as well before this budget is given 3rd reading and finally passed. Otherwise, as has been suggested, there is going to be I am afraid a lot of negative comment and feelings once the farmers are done seeding. The timing of the meeting itself is right smack in the middle of seeding or near the end of it. And that may not have been by design. We'll give benefit of the doubt there. But it definitely did not wind up at an opportune time for ratepayers at large in the municipality to actually attend a meeting such as this. For now, that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to make presentations for or against the 2023 financial plan?
I would just like to add one other. I'm a little confused on the environmental health services at $40,000 in the LUD, and then yet where I'm trying to understand the total amount spent on garbage collection is $58,000, but it's titled, same thing. Your total amount was actually $58,000, and yet you budgeted for $40,000. So why should the at-large pick up the difference when you know it cost $58,000 to pick garbage up, a service I don't have, or no other farmer in the at-large, and yet we're already picking up the LUD's cost for garbage collection?
Was that more a statement or was that a question?
That was a statement, a question, however you want to answer.
So I can advise specifically to garbage pickup, efficiencies have been found to make it cost less. The intention is for the LUD to pay the entire cost of garbage pickup.
So if it goes to $50,000, who's picking up the additional charge?
It won't.
Okay. I just don't see $3 and something, if you want to average out from the people per week for garbage pickup.
I guess when we did the budgeting, we looked at the number of hours that are used for the total garbage pickup each week.
Okay, you've answered that. What about no wages? No labor put to the LUD?
The LUD has no staff.
So at large is going to pay for any work and every bit of work that's done in the LUD? That's going to be on the backs of the at large?
No, that's not what the budget indicates. For example, the $40,000 for garbage collection includes a substantial amount of wages. The majority of the cost of garbage collection is wages.
Well, then you should break that out and explain. Well, mowing, already know mowing's at large, snow removal at large. Why? You explain that.
Have you read the Municipal Act, the rules around an LUD?
You're an LUD inside the town of Benito is not rural. That's an LUD.
As per the rules, an LUD can only be taxed for services provided within the LUD that are not already taxed for at large. So if that's clear, what do we get within the LUD that we aren't paying for at large?
You get mowing, you get snow removal.
We pay for that at large.
It-
Street lights, which you mentioned, we
Are
pay
you
for at
going
large.
to suggest, Councillor Kushniryk, that the snow removal done in the LUD is the same as the snow clearing in the rural, and that the mowing that is done in the LUD is the same or similar as the mowing in the rural?
Is it the same? No. But why then are you okay with us paying for a bridge up in Crestview? Should that bridge only go to Ward, a bridge in Ward 1 only be built to Ward 1 residents then from now on? Is that how it should be done? Your fire hall in Thunder West, why was that built at large? Why was that not just to these residents in the north?
I correct you, it was not built at large, it was built with reserves from gas tax, which were rural strictly, because the LUD have their own gas tax reserve.
You're going forward, so it was going to be taxed to just the rural?
What do you mean when we tax? Just the-
Well, one of the examples earlier was that the fire department in Benito should be taxed to the LUD because that'd be the primary users.
I don't think that he suggested, it wasn't me that said that, but I don't believe that Mr. Medwood suggested it should be entirely paid. It
You should be
weighted.
shared.
It should be weighted. It always was.
Exactly.
It was weighted when the village was still a village. They paid a percentage, the rural paid a percentage.
Well, we aren't a village for
I
taxation
understand that. I
purposes
said
anymore.
it was that way when.
But
it
my
was.
question to you was what do we get in the LUD that we aren't taxed for already at large? It's a very small selection of items. Because we are taxed at large for every item that we get in there. When you talk about staff, it says that we cannot own equipment, we do not have staff, we don't have any of that. Because when we pay the at-large that we always paid, Mr. Galloway can attest to this, that I used to always argue, why are we being taxed at large for gravel? Then I'd say move it to rural, because we don't get any gravel in Benito from them. They refused.
They refused.
You know they refused. We have the meetings online from last year, we can watch those, I won't get into it.
Let's stay on topic.
Tell me what we get taxed
Anyone
for.
who suggests that the mowing in a settlement such as the LUD of Benito is the same as it is in the rural, should maybe spend some time in the rural.
So Mr. Galloway,
Well,
I think we're going to stop for a moment there.
Yeah.
The municipal act is clear, as Mr. Kushniryk has pointed that out. Mowing is mowing. We also mow in Kenville, we mow in the Pot and Drive area. We have urban areas and rural areas, but what the municipal act requires is that if a service is provided to the entire municipality, which mowing and snow removal are, they be taxed at large to the entire municipality. Benito does not receive special different things except, for example, of garbage. They receive garbage pickup where other areas do not, which is why garbage pickup is an LUD service.
Can I say one more
There's a
thing?
big expenditure coming from the rec center to at large, garbage pickup.
The rec
You're
center,
gonna say you're gonna hold it at 40, anything over 40, then the ratepayers, I'm trusting in the LUD of Benito, will take care of the over expenditure.
the law, specifically to that point, the law requires that if there's an over expenditure, the LUD either pay for it or give up service to keep it to the $40,000.
The point is, if you want these services, then you collect and pay for them. I can only receive so many services to where I live, and I've never seen a mower go down Pot and Drive, just for a point of interest, never. The individuals mow the ditches with their own mowers, so.
With respect to that, so if we're going to pick not on what Benito gets, but what one person doesn't get, if we take any resident that lives along Highway 83, do we need to give them a reduced mill rate because they're receiving virtually no services? We can't nickel and dime, we can't say they get this, they get that.
Now you're going to the other.
I'm just picking the other direction.
We all have to take our share
Exactly.
of the municipality, but it really looks through your bidding, and your wife is on the LUD, your partner's on the LUD.
Excuse me.
It's
Excuse
just
me,
a mess.
stop. We're not getting personal here. We're not going to start making accusations about family members. Elections were held. People ran in elections. There was an opportunity for any person that was eligible to run in the LUD to run for the LUD committee. The folks that chose to run for the LUD committee did so. They were legally elected. To sit here and take shots at councillors because of that is inappropriate. Please do not do that again.
You know, people are free to run and get elected. That is true. I'm not denying it. But it's a nice, kind of a comfortable setting, how all of a sudden this
Mr. Medwood.
got done.
You're out of order. Thank you. Does anybody else wish to make a presentation for the 2023 financial plan, either for or against? Mr. Bergen.
Okay, my turn. Okay. So, first of all, let me get this out of the way. If I can address former Reeve Galloway here. On one of your points, I went to every single one of your financial hearings, and I do recall that most of them were either at this time of year or later than this, and it is not particularly fair to accuse any sort of
Mr. Bergen. For or against the financial plan. I don't want you picking a fight with the audience. We're not here for that. We're here to address the
Okay,
financial
very
plan.
well. Let me go through my notes here. The little bit about physician recruitment there. You mentioned that there was a double spending. I was wondering if you could explain what that's all about.
So each year, the municipality is responsible for $16 per capita for physician recruitment funding. In 2022, that amount was not paid. So we still owe that money into 2023, and we're required to pay it to the committee, but we're also required to pay the 2023 amount. So this year, it will appear as if we're spending twice as much, whereas next year, it will return to the normal spending of $16.
Okay.
Mr. Galloway?
Can I just offer a bit of an explanation? I think, I stand to be corrected, that in 22, because, and before there was a commitment made to the CAT scan purchase, there was rumblings at the level, the health authority level, that they had over the $1 million, whatever it was, and that perhaps contributions should be suspended for a year or two. And then I guess it was decided that, no, they thought they should continue to collect, and it was for that reason that it wasn't paid when the original billing normally comes out. And a councillor that I spoke to today said that it was suggested that our CEO at the time pay it. He had every intention of doing so, slipped his mind, obviously. So it was not a non-payment with malice or whatever. It was a miscommunication and then I forgot to do it sort of thing.
And I think it would be fair to say this council wasn't notified until after December 31st, so there wasn't an opportunity to pay it in the 2022 year.
It could have been dated back though.
By the time it came up, it was going to be difficult to date it back in the computer system.
The other question that I did have about dating things, is there $50,000 that's been received from the disaster financial assistance so far?
There has been.
Okay, where is the rest showing up? Is that in AR?
So disaster financial assistance at this particular moment is waiting for more paperwork from us for a couple flood sites that have to be completed. We have not been able to come to some understanding with them of why there was a thought there was $200,000 to be paid. Their view is that $50,000 is the majority of the payment and there's a few sites left to complete, but they do not feel there was $200,000.
It's in the neighborhood of $200,000 and it was supposedly sanctioned. An employee spent many hours having had photographed all of the sites and put all of the costs together. And if they are paying for our participation, the rural municipalities' contribution of equipment and manpower, then yes, it is in that $200,000. So I would, as a council, advise that you should strive to get every last cent that is due to us.
I can say that staff did prepare the information and sent it in. Without this council, like it happened during transition, so this council was never able to review what staff sent in. It was prior staff that sent it in. So we're a little bit, we don't know as enough about it as we should, but we will certainly take your advice and look into it further. Mr. Bergen, you were asking questions. Please ask more if you have more.
Yeah, I'm gonna just give my notes on the browse here.
While Mr. Bergen's doing that, is there any chance this council can look forward to getting these budget meetings 6 or 8 weeks back from a busy time of spring for our farmers?
Certainly our intention. We've discussed already that we want budgeting to occur earlier. The intention had been for it to occur earlier this year too. We ran into a lot of trouble with computer systems. And even the financial plan, we'd hoped to have it out a couple weeks ago. but day after day, the computers had stopped working, and we had to have people in to service them. So the staff have done a remarkable job to get to where we are. We have discussed internally that we hope to be presenting draft numbers in November, December of this year, looking forward into next year. So we're looking at budget hearings in that February, March range.
That would be a great commitment. I'm sure the farmers would appreciate it.
Mr. Bergen?
I see the decrease in the nuisance grounds. Is there, well, just savings found there from last year's estimate?
So a few things at play there. Nuisance grounds roll up both Bozeman and what used to be Durban, and then also Benito. So Benito's open still, but Durban is not. There were some closing costs last year for Durban. There's also been some changes to how Bozeman is functioning. So rather than it being a share of the overall cost of the facility there, we're paying to transfer the garbage as more of a transfer station. So there's some adjustments there that I think mostly account for those changes.
Okay. And then as far as recycling goes in the rural, is there going to be any changes to the way recycling is conducted in the Swan River area?
There's been ongoing discussion of recycling both in the rural and the LUD area. Council's not particularly impressed with what's happening in the LUD. We added an additional bin there to try and take care of the amount of recycling, but pickups are not being done on schedule, which is leaving us with a heck of a mess some days in Benito. And we've been having to transfer some of that to the Benito landfill just to keep the mess from being in Benito. So we're continuing to review it. We've looked at options for recycling closer to Swan River. Our concern is with the setup currently of the Swan River landfill, that we would find a lot of recycling that wasn't Swan Valley West recycling making its way into a bin if it was located on the edge of Swan River, because you don't have to pay to use our bin, whereas you have to pay to use the town bin. So some of those discussions continue on for what could be done. There's also a broader discussion ongoing with the town of Swan River about the Swan River landfill itself, and perhaps some changes there that may address some of those concerns.
When is the contract up for the current recycling provider?
I don't know the date off the top of my head, but it's a contract as far as OSS. There is an out clause in it, so it can be over quicker than what's written if it needs to be. And then also the other contract that's in play is the contract for the landfill, which is also due soon.
Is there some discussion around the province potentially taking over the entire province-wide recycling at all?
Not that's reached our table.
With all that.
Okay, Mr. Galloway.
Could I just add one point?
Sure.
Is it the province's intention not to take it over?
I don't know where the
Because
province
that's
is
what
going
they've
to go.
been working towards the last couple of years.
I think until we see the results of the October election, we simply, nothing's going to change before then, and who knows what's going to happen after that. I think there'll be a massive time of transition, no matter who wins the election. Either there'll be a renewed mandate for the existing government and they'll go after those things stronger, or there could be a different government with different priorities. I just don't know where it's going to go.
One final question or note, that's on page 5 of the financial plan. Down near the bottom where it says blade, grader / mower tires.
There's a coding error there. The 438,000 includes the spare grader, the unit 5 that was
That's what I was
purchased.
going to ask, if that in fact included the prices of the grader. So it has not been paid for yet?
It has been paid for. When we questioned that, there wasn't a GL account for it, so it needs to be moved to capital correctly, and the intention was to do that during the audit.
That's all I have. Thank you very much for your...
Thank you. Anybody else with presentations for or against the financial plan?
I got a question, but I'll ask it later, because it deals with the fire department, not budget.
Okay. Last chance, anybody with further questions, presentations? If not, we will move to adjourn the public hearing at 7:34. Let's go pick up our special meeting. If that works.
I may be excused.
Oh, certainly. Have a good evening. So we're moving to item 4 on the special meeting agenda. Be it resolved that we open the special meeting of the Council of Swan Valley West at 7:35 p.m. Is the remover, please? Councillor Kushniryk, and a seconder, please. Councillor McGregor. Any discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. So Council, I pose a question. Item 5 is to go to third reading of the bylaw, but Mr. Medwood indicated he had a question about the fire department. Would we be fine with entertaining that for a second now, so he doesn't have to sit here and wait for us to carry on for a while?
Yeah, you can carry on, I don't mind. In your 100-day thing out here, I just have a few comments from some ratepayers. In here, it said you worked out an agreement for the fire department with the town. Is there an actual signed, documented agreement, or are we just still in that in faith stance?
So there's an agreement that hasn't been signed. There was one clause left that's being negotiated at fire board, and then it's due for signing if that's resolved. And the indications are that there's a resolution for that particular clause between the parties. There's been some negotiations ongoing, but it has not been signed yet.
Okay, so you're working on an agreement, but it's not signed yet.
Should be soon, but it is not today.
Okay. That was my question.
All right. Let's go to 5.1. Be resolved that bylaw 010223, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West for the levying of taxes for the year 2023, shall be read a third time this 24th day of May 2023, signed by the Reeve and signed and sealed by the Interim Chief Administrative Officer. Is there a mover for the resolution? Councillor Kushniryk. Someone to second the resolution. Councillor Burick. Council, I remind you, because this is the third reading of the bylaw, when we do get to the voting, it'll be a recorded vote tonight, as is required. We'll open it up for discussion. Who would like to discuss first? Councillor Blosha.
Okay, so that it's been brought to the attention about the page 4, the legal at 75,000. So in our one where we were all together and we did this together, we agreed that the legal contract services would stay at 25, correct? And then we have the union, and we set it at 10. So that adds up to 35, correct?
Yes.
Yes, so we have it, so obviously there's been a mistake because it's 75 in our budget.
This was a suggestion from staff because of some ongoing legal issues that are cropping up. I can't address them in public, but I can say that there has been indication that Swan Valley West may be on the receiving end of a lawsuit, which may require additional spending.
But it was never discussed with council to add that into the budget?
No, but this was a recommendation from staff that came forward. That's why we looked at the financial plan last night. There were some changes that staff recommended.
I just feel that, I don't know, did everyone take this home and have a look and go over it line by line? And just see if there was any other discrepancies? Like, we didn't have much time. We were given this at the meeting last night.
Earlier yesterday, but yes, it was late.
I just feel we didn't have enough time to go line by line to see, and I mean, it's a $40,000 discrepancy.
On the discussion. Don't all go at the same time. We should hear from everybody tonight ideally. Councillor Burick.
It's fine with me.
Councillor McGregor. Thoughts, questions, discussion. Councillor Zbirun.
I'm like Carrie, have a problem with that legal fees being so high like that.
Okay, so we could look to amend this if you folks are interested in doing that. Would you either one of you like to propose an amendment? Councillor Blosha would like to propose an amendment. I'm sure Councillor Zbirun is willing to second it. Give me a moment, because I have to take this in. Is the amendment going to be to set it to 35? Is that?
Well, that's what we as a council agreed on.
Okay, so give me a second and we will get this set up here.
I thought you just recommended staff said.
But shouldn't that come to council too?
Or it's only the last say and stuff like that.
Any chance I could buy a bottle of water?
Just take one out.
Good point.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
You want one too?
So to capture this in the minutes, it's going to be a little clunky, but administrational fixes. So I have Councillor Blosha proposing an amendment to the financial plan to change the legal fees from $75,000 to $35,000, seconded by Councillor Zbirun. Discussion on that amendment. Does anyone wish to make presentations or discuss that?
I think I did.
Okay, now just thinking if anybody else.
I'm okay with it. I mean, like, $40,000 in the grand scheme of things, it's just if we have extra to spend somewhere else, it's really just a slush fund if it doesn't get used. As for time, no, we didn't have a lot, but we did go through 2 readings of this thing where we all said we were okay with it. And I know you're saying we didn't have a lot of time, but I also know how last year's budget went, and oh my God, we had no time. Like, you may as well have just got this on your desk when you got here.
I know, but like you say, we had time, but we got this yesterday.
And I'm not even sure if we amend it now, do we gotta do a whole public hearing again?
No, because you'd be going down instead of
We're
up. So
not.
the
Yeah, we're
public
going-
hearing is still valid. There would have to be changes to the bylaw. We'd have to recalculate mill rates or take that $40,000 and put it someplace else to keep the mill rate the same. But the mill rate cannot go up after the public hearing. It can come down or it can stay the same.
In the grand scheme of things, I think it's tiny.
If it's not spent, it would end up into general reserve. Or spent on something else.
Exactly,
Something
yeah.
goes wrong.
If, with the way inflation and everything else, maybe we're low on a different column and it'll suck it up.
More gravel.
Hmm?
More gravel.
More gravel. No one's gonna complain about more gravel.
I'm thinking the cemetery fund will suck that up pretty quick.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor, so voting yes is to change from 75 to 35. Those in favor of the change. Those against the change. Okay, that is defeated. So we're back to the main resolution, the bylaw itself. Are there other amendments we want to propose to this tonight? Or general discussion as well, doesn't have to be an amendment, it can just be discussion. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. Do you want some more time? Are you good to move on with the vote?
I'm good.
Councillor McGregor, is you still flipping pages or you want some more time? So we are on the main resolution. Do you want it reread? Or are we good with it? The reading the first time? The resolution that's on the table be it resolved that bylaw 010223, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West for the levying of taxes for the year 2023, shall be read a third time this 24th day of May 2023, signed by the Reeve, signed and sealed by the Interim Chief Administrative Officer. I have to admit, when I updated for the amendment, I lost the mover and seconder. Can you remind me who it was? It was
I moved it.
Kushniryk.
Ryan seconded.
Sorry about that. This is required to be a recorded vote, so I must change to the voting screen for that. Councillor Neely is absent tonight. We'll mark him as such. Those in favor, please put up your hands and keep them up until I can record the vote. I see Councillor Kushniryk. I see Councillor Burick. I see Councillor McGregor and myself as well. Those opposed to the resolution. I see Councillor Blosha and I see Councillor Zbirun. By my count, that's all 7 members are now accounted for. Does everybody agree? I think so. So that is carried. We do have an optional in-camera session here in my written version, but I don't think that was in our presented agenda, so I don't think there's anything for us to go in camera for this evening. We're fairly limited on other business we can take tonight because we're member short. We can't change the agenda, but is there any pressing concerns that we need to discuss as a council that are emergent enough that we should ignore the rules? If not, then we'll move to section 8. Be it resolved that this meeting shall now adjourn at 7:46 p.m. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha, and seconded by Councillor Burick. I'm going to fix this computer yet before we do this again. Any discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.